Well, today I am on an adventure. Facebook Marketplace has taken me on another mission. Whether or not it's intelligent is up for debate. But nevertheless, I am out near Wapakoneta, Ohio, driving around the countryside. It's beautiful over here, by the way. But I'm going to look at something I probably should have no business even thinking about buying, but here we are. It's going to be a big purchase, big physically. It's not super expensive, but I'll show you when I get there, but this could be the stupidest thing I've ever done.
Deal.
I am. Are you Mike?
Yes, sir. Oh, there she is in all her glory.
I see it.
A bit.
Nice truck. But here's what we're looking at. Oh, man. Am I an idiot or what? I told the guy I'd take it. Now I got to figure out how to get it home because we are more than an hour from my house. So I'm going to have it trucked home. And if all goes well, I've got a project that I'll be able to start with this thing.
Dig Drive DIY.
It's a scraper, an earth mover, paddle wheel, pan, all different names for one of the most efficient earth moving machines ever built. Over the decades, the motor scraper has gone by many names, but its purpose has remained the same: to move massive amounts of dirt quickly and efficiently. Before we even had engines and tractors though, folks were moving dirt. The old slip scoop behind a mule is what my grandpa Schaefer would reference when he talked about how his dad had to move dirt around the farm. But as soon as tractors and crawlers started to become more commonplace, naturally folks began to start hooking their scoops and pans to them to scrape up and move dirt. In the early days of earth moving, scrapers were simple implements, pull-type pans hitched behind a crawler or a tractor and operated with ropes or cables from the operator's seat. Then a few manufacturers began experimenting with connecting these pull-type scrapers to tractors more permanently as a dedicated unit, first with cable controls, and then eventually moving to hydraulics. But the big breakthrough came with the development of the self-propelled, or motor scraper, by R.G. Letourneau, who after being rejected by a major manufacturer, created his own version in the late 1930s, the Model A Turn-A-Pull. It combined a high-speed, two-wheeled tractor with a scraper bowl, offering a leap in productivity and speed. Other manufacturers soon followed Letourneau's lead. Companies like International Harvester, Alice Chalmers, Wabco, and of course Caterpillar would all become major players in the scraper market. When America began building its vast network of highways and interstates in the mid-20th century, the motor scraper became the hero of the dirt world. These machines would move hundreds of cubic yards per hour, cutting, carrying, and spreading material faster than almost anything else on the job site. Scrapers shaped the land beneath our roads, airports, and our subdivisions. They made the massive earthwork projects of the 20th century possible. Among the many manufacturers that took on the challenge of scraper design was John Deere. Deere entered the scraper market in the late 1950s, combining its experience in agriculture and heavy equipment to build a new kind of dirt mover. Their first self-propelled machine was the Model 840, a collaboration with Hancock Manufacturing that was released in 1957. Like many early models, it was a 3-axled machine using a beefed-up farm tractor as the power source, which was connected to a dedicated scraper. But it served as an important stepping stone because the 840 evolved into the popular 5010, and later that became the 760, as Deere refined its designs and began building its own elevating scraper bowls. This led to the introduction of the well-known 860. Built through the 1970s, the 860 got rid of the farm tractor base up front and featured a 2-axle articulated design with a strong mainframe, a powerful Detroit engine, and dependable hydraulics. Everything that contractors expected from a Deere. This design and styling of the 860 would lead the way to the Model 862 in the early 1980s. The 862 carried forward the same rugged, self-loading and unloading design of the 860, but with improved power, operator comfort, and efficiency. Continued improvements came in the following revised models of the 862B and the 862B Series 2, which offered hydraulic rear wheel assist and automatic ride control. Sadly though, the 862B Series 2 represented the final chapter in Deere's line of self-propelled scrapers, because by the start of the 2000s, Deere made the decision to step away from self-propelled elevating scrapers and focused instead on pull-type pans, designed to work behind tractors and articulated style dump trucks. It was a move that kept them in the scraper game, but with a simpler and arguably more versatile approach. Today, Caterpillar remains the last major manufacturer still producing a self-propelled elevating scraper. Their machines carry on the legacy of a design that's been refining the art of moving dirt for nearly a century. But even so, you don't see many of these out here anymore these days. Once in a while, you'll see some self-propelled scrapers on a large job site, but the rise in popularity of excavators and haul trucks and double and triple sets of pull pans, as well as GPS grading systems, has really changed the way dirt is moved. But the scraper's mark on history is undeniable, and the scraper has also left an indelible mark on my history as well. When I graduated from high school, I began my equipment operating career by running a John Deere scraper. We had both an older 860 and a 1985 model 862. The 862 became my favorite, and I accumulated thousands of hours operating it over the 10 years or so that I worked in excavating. Primarily, we dug ponds and did site development work with them, and they were great for moving tons of dirt over short distances. With just 2 operators in 2 machines, we could get a lot done because scrapers are unique in that they can dig and load themselves like an excavator, haul about 20 tons of dirt like a dump truck, grade dirt out as they dump it like a bulldozer, keep your haul paths level and smooth like a road grader, and compact and fill a site like a roller. I love the versatility and what we were able to get accomplished with those machines. But the other thing that they are really good at though is breaking down. Along with my operating experience came a lot of wrenching experience because they've got a lot of moving and wearable parts. But usually the good times would outweigh the bad, and we could keep them up and running for the most part and still get a lot done. But that was in the early 2000s, over 20 years ago now. The newest John Deere self-loading scraper that you're going to be able to find to buy today is over 25 years old. And the one I found over in Ohio is more than 40 years old. They're getting harder to find, and they're even harder to find parts for. Matter of fact, I learned that the previous owner of this scraper I found had to get really clever and creative in order to keep it out of the scrapyard. So it probably wasn't the smartest move for me, but I bought it because I've been feeling nostalgic for this stuff. It's been over 20 years since I've operated one. I actually can't remember the last time I ran one because I didn't know that it was my last time at the time. You know what I mean? So let's go see if we can try to get this thing home, and then I'll fill you in on what the previous owner did in order to keep it out of the junkyard, and then I'll fill you in on why I'm buying it in the first place. I think I could put it to use. Peterbilt. How's it going, Chris? Hour and a half and we're here. Chris and I used to run scrapers together, so he's a perfect one to come along with me to get this. Okay, we made it down here to the country of Wapakoneta, Ohio. And Chris has got his truck here. We're gonna try to probably back the scraper on. We have to back it on because the rear tires have to go up on those fenders in order to have enough clearance in the lowboy. So it's gonna be a tight squeeze, but that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna check the oil in this scraper and start her up. Good on oil. All right, let's see if she fires up. Well, if it fits, it ships. Now we just got to get it chained down and then we will head for home. Man. right, we've got the scraper all loaded up. We're ready to make the drive home. I think we're good on height, we're good on width, we got our permits, we're all legal. Just got to get it there, and then we'll take a closer look at it. All right, we made it back to our place. Trip went smooth and steady. We had to pull permits from the state of Ohio, and they dictate your route home. So it's an hour drive in a truck. When I went there to look at it, it took us like an hour 45 to get here, going the route that they prescribed. So it was kind of a pain in the butt, but we're here, no problems. We're gonna go out and get it unloaded, and then I'll probably just sit and look at it for a few days and wonder why I did what I did. This is a 14, and how much can you haul? Like
on deck, about 100,000.
Wow. So this rig, Chris has got a tri-axle tractor, he's got a quad axle trailer, and legally he can haul about 100,000 pounds on the deck of his lowboy, which is mind-boggling. A normal semi, you know, legally is 80,000 pounds total weight loaded. So here he can be well over like 130,000 pounds, probably 140,000 pounds. He's going to detach from the lowboy, and then we'll just drive this off of here. Well, it's here. I don't know if this was the smartest thing I've done, but it is still kind of fun. But all right, I'm gonna help him pack up and then gather my thoughts. We'll just get this pulled out, do a little walk around. I want to clean inside the cab a little bit and tell you what my intentions are. We're here at least. All right, well here it is in all its glory. It is a John Deere 862. I think it's around a 1985 or 86. It's real similar to the one that I ran back when I was doing heavy equipment and excavating work. This one's got a few differences. I'll talk about those in a minute, and I'll also talk about how the previous owner kept it from being scrapped, because it's pretty interesting. But this one has a cab, the first biggest difference from the one I used to operate. It does have heat and air conditioning in it, but it doesn't work as far as I know. Maybe the heater works, but most likely not. It's got pretty big tires on it, pretty decent tires. One of the rear tires is bad. Actually, if you caught it being unloaded into the driveway, you'll see that there was a spare tire in the bowl that they threw in with it. So if I have any problems with this junky tire, maybe I can switch out to that tire that they included. But you can see the recap is starting to come off on this one pretty badly. But I thought I'd just do a little walk around and talk about what I've come to know about these scrapers in particular, just from what I remember back in the day. It's been, like I said, 20 years since I've really operated one, but it all feels very familiar. There's a lot of muscle memory there. First things first, over here, you saw it when I picked it up, but this has got a John Deere engine in it, and I think it's about 280 horse, somewhere around there. A 24 volt system. It's got 2 batteries down in there. The hour meter says 7,695 hours. So if it's right, that's fewer hours than my backhoe. I don't know, it's a lot, but it's understandable. It's 40 years old. All the John Deeres back in the day had this little periodic service chart on there to show you where all the grease zerks were, when you should be greasing and where and how often. Mufflers up under the hood, stack coming out obviously. There's a big knuckle up there, and for this style here, they've got a lot of grease banks. So like right here's a grease bank with 5 zerks, and then it's plumbed to all the different points that receive grease. So there's obviously grease at the end of all the cylinders, all the moving components up there. You can see that little tube right there is a grease line that comes up. It's electronically controlled transmission. That's going to matter later when we talk about it, but there's a bunch of solenoids and stuff in here that make this thing operate. There's another grease bank. It's missing a zerk. I don't know where that one goes. There's grease zerks on those little drive shaft U-joints, I know, that need greased. But it had the filters and everything changed at 7,500 hours in 2015. So in the last 10 years, it's only had fewer than 200 hours put on it. So that tells you a little bit of the story right there. What makes it an elevating scraper is this web right here. And this is why they sometimes are referred to as paddle wheels, because this chain revolves, and these flights, we call them flights, they make contact with the ground as it comes around. It goes down and it kind of smacks the ground. You don't want it to smack too badly because then you can jump the chain off the track. But the flights make contact with the dirt as it's being pushed into the belly, into the bowl, and that's what helps to load it. So that's what makes this a self-loading or an elevating scraper. It elevates the dirt in the back there. The chain comes down like this, hits the ground, and then it elevates the dirt up that back set of flights, and hence the name elevating scraper. These plates right here are attached to the sliding floor. So it's in the forward position right now. It's in the digging position. The plates go all the way forward. You can see the cutting edge down there. The teeth on the cutting edge. That's when it's ready to dig. You fill it up. It fills the bowl. The 862 can hold, I think, 17 yards or 18 yards, somewhere in there. Fills it up, and then when you go to dump, the floor slides backwards on those slide rails right there. That's something else you'd want to grease daily. Slides back, and then the gate in the back, that little part that's sticking up right here, the gate pushes forward and pushes the dirt out. So it's a dual action to get the dirt out of here. And when the floor is all the way back and the gate's all the way forward, you can't load it with dirt, but it makes a great road grader because it's got such a long wheelbase. And with that, the cutting edge about right here in the middle of the machine, you can grade like a road grader and shape things up really nicely, actually. So another thing you got to do is keep the proper tension on these chains. And I've replaced these bearings before, and these idler pulleys, or idler rollers, I should say. You can tighten them up by raising that arm up and changing positions of that hole. But you want to keep proper tension on the chain, because if it gets too loose, it'll jump off the sprockets on the top. There's 2 ways to do it. You can jump the sprocket by having it too loose, or sometimes when it gets loose and worn out and you work on an angle, if you get the scraper digging on its side like this, then the weight of the chain will actually make it jump the sprockets on the top. Now here's the sprockets at the top of the elevator chain. They don't look too bad. They're not terrific either, but see how there's a great big gap between, there's a huge gap between the sprocket and the roller on the chain. That's not ideal, but I've seen worse. I've seen them run to where these are really sharp points. This is the planetary drive that drives the elevator. There's the motor. And I've seen those go bad, and I've had those tearing apart too. So this part here is on a pivot point back there, and the elevator is kind of allowed to jump up and down because as it fills with dirt and as the bowl swells full of dirt, it has a natural tendency to push the elevator forward. So you wouldn't want that in a fixed position. So they designed it so that everything on the elevator can kind of pivot and move, and thereby reducing some of the damage that would come if it was all fixed. Back here you can kind of see that end gate. There's 2 cylinders in there in the floor. That one there is for the floor, and then there's 2 push cylinders for the back gate. And here's the rollers that it rides on. Fuel tank is back here in the back, so you want to fuel them way back here. There's a fuel pump back here behind this. I've had to replace those before too. You can push a scraper to help it load. If you're in really hard conditions, you can pull a bulldozer up here and push on it with the blade. We did that pretty often when we got into really hard ground. Tail lights, turn signals, backup beeper, all back here, all non-functioning obviously on this one. originally had it. Here's another grease bank to grease everything that's in the back. So like I said, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that can go haywire on these. I'm talking myself out of this decision right now as I look it over. So you're probably thinking to yourself, what in the world would make it almost be scrapped? Because it looks pretty good. It does. It's been painted once and it doesn't look too bad, and I've seen much worse, but we'll get in the cab here and I'll show you. So here's the dash, all the regular volts and pressures and engine temperatures and fuel. I know the fuel gauge doesn't work, but the voltmeter was showing, oil pressure was working, and engine temperature appeared to work. But yeah, this got a key and then a start button over here to start it. We'll start it in a second. For the controls, this has hydraulic levers to raise and lower the bowl, to eject the gate and the floor. They work together, and then this runs the elevator itself. So you just got 3 levers to maintain, and basically when you're digging, you're raising the bowl up and down, and we always ran it full throttle and had the differential locked when we were digging in order to do as much as you possibly could. And here's your view from inside the cab. Like I said, this one has an air conditioner and a heater. I doubt that any of that stuff works. I'm probably not going to worry about getting any of it working. I don't think the effort to return ratio on trying to get that stuff working is going to be very good, but it's there nevertheless. I don't know, maybe someday. Somebody put a radio in it back here, which is, you know, that was put in before the days of AirPods and earmuffs and all that good stuff, because I would never use that. The fan I might if it would work, but I doubt that it does. I'm surprised that it does work for the most part, and that's the reason it was saved from the scrapyard. The one I ran when I was excavating was all electric over hydraulic controls. It had push button switches that were electric over hydraulic. So you would push a rocker switch and that would actuate a solenoid that would make the hydraulics move up and down. So it had 3 buttons instead of these 3 levers. And that was kind of wild on those back in the day. That was in the 80s, you know, a good idea at the time. They only had that for a year or so and they went back to these levers, which I prefer the levers. Actually, that's what our 860 had, and that's what the newer 862s had. But they also had that electrically controlled shifter, and that's what's wrong with this one. The shifter that controlled these transmissions, they were a 6-speed electric transmission, should be right here, and the shifter is gone. The shifter went bad. And like I said, parts are hard to come by. And the previous owner, actually the guy before I bought it from, he was a clever sort. The guy I bought this from said that the previous owner, he was a kind of a mad scientist. And when the shifter went bad in this and he wasn't able to find a replacement or any parts or any way to fix it, his only options were to scrap the machine out, which he was about to do, or try to figure out a way to make it work. And he figured out a way to make it work, believe it or not. He replaced the shifter that moves into 6 different positions plus reverse. He replaced that with these toggle switches. And there's a sequence for the toggle switches in order to achieve the gear you're hoping to achieve. Sounds a little confusing and awkward, right? That's what I thought. But fortunately, the guy put a key on the windshield. So if you want first gear, you flip the first 3 switches on. First gear, 1, 2, 3. Second gear is 2 and 3 on. Second gear. Third, first 2 are on. Then you got to do a little switching like that. Reverse is third plus this one. And I'm not sure what that does. I think that's the torque converter lockup. So that is the ugly part of this machine, is that it's got toggle switches instead of the gear shifter. And even if I found a gear shifter and had all the parts and pieces to put it back together, I would kind of be a little intimidated to try to take this apart and make sure I had all the wires right, because somebody went to a lot of effort, obviously, to do this. I don't want to mess with it. If it works, I'll put up with it. And I think this is kind of like learning to play the guitar. Like once you figure out the sequence, and you're only going to use, you know, a handful of gears anyway all the time, all day long, I don't think it'll be that bad. I'm willing to put up with it, and that's why the price was a little bit cheaper, and a reason why I'm buying this thing when I should have no business buying it. But let's take a quick little ride. I'll show you how it goes, and then I'll tell you why I bought it. See what you think from there. It's got a fuel shutoff switch here, so when you want to shut it down, you got to pull and disable the fuel, shut the fuel off. But to start it, it's just here, push button, contact. Okay, we're going to raise the bowl up by pulling this. If you pull it back, it'll eject the floor and the gate. Here's the elevator. That would be to dig, forward, and reverse. Alright, let's take it for a little ride, shall we? I'm going to push on the brake in order to put it in gear. First gear is first 3. If I want to go to second gear, I shut off the first switch, let off on the gas a little bit. Third gear is the first 2. Fourth gear is just the second switch. There's 4. Fifth gear is all 5, or all 4. I don't like the noise it's making in fifth gear. It's noisy. I want to try sixth. Sounds like the brakes. Oh, it bounced out of gear. Second gear and third gear don't sound too bad. Fourth gear sounds good too. Well, there you have it. You rode along with me for the first time where I got it into 5th and 6th gear. You heard the noise that I didn't hear when I bought it. I didn't have enough room to get it up and running where I bought it, so I didn't hear that noise. But maybe I'll just avoid those gears. I don't know. What do you think? Probably a bad move? We'll see. The reason I bought it was a guy I know who's already been on the channel, but we'll wait to reveal that later. But anyway, he wanted to dig a pond. It's very close to home, within a couple miles of our house. And when he came to me and expressed interest in digging a pond and asking if I would be interested in digging it, I said, no, I wouldn't want to dig a pond without having my own scraper or a way to dig it. That led me to look at Facebook Marketplace that evening. That led me to discover this, and here we are. So now the pond project is up in question. We don't know if it's going to go through or not. There's been some debates and some struggles, and it's on the hold for now. We'll see. But I do have a job I can go do with it. I've got a project for Greg on a waterway in a field that needs fixed up, so I will have an opportunity to run it. I want to try it out and see how it works, but that's yet to be determined. So if you're interested in seeing how this is going to work, or if it's going to break down the first time I try to use it, then make sure you're subscribed. I've had a lot of people tell me, someone will comment in the comments, oh, it's nice to see a video from you again. And I'll say, I make a video every Sunday. Oh, really? I haven't seen them in a while. I wasn't subscribed anymore. So make sure you're subscribed. I also want to really thank the patrons that have been contributing over there on Patreon. That's been a really fun experience, a great way for me to put some behind-the-scenes stuff on there and interact with the patrons personally. That has been great. So thank you to you folks as well for that. Very much appreciated. So this fall is yet to be determined. Maybe I'm digging a pond, maybe I'm not. We'll just have to wait and find out. We've got some other exciting stuff coming down the pipe anyway, though. So make sure you're clicked and subscribed. I don't say that too often, but it's helpful. And otherwise, I just want to thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope that you liked it. I hope that you maybe learned something. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you in the next one. Now I just got to figure out where to park this thing. It occupies a lot of space. Kara's super impressed. Well, my apologies for the clickbaity thumbnail if this is the one I used on this video. I couldn't just put a picture of a shiny, good-looking scraper and then say that it needed fixed or that it almost went to the scrapyard or something along those lines. So that's what it takes these days to get people to click. But I'm glad you did. So thanks a million. We'll see you in the next one.